Around the world, the price of food is on the rise. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization has called the situation a crisis. Many nations and their citizens are worried that they will lose the gains that they've made in the past decade. Rising prices have also hit the United Kingdom and the United States, where costs have gone up between 4 and 7%. Beyond food, there's also been spikes at the pump. As gasoline demand grows in emerging economies like China. From Lisbon to Washington, many have tried to protest these gas price increases. Despite these protests, the price of energy continues to skyrocket, as commodity prices continue to go up on the markets. Millions of families try to keep their homes warm. Tens of thousands of Americans are losing their houses at an unprecedented rate. Markets are climbing and falling from London to Shanghai. Bank governors, factory workers, and politicians are all worried about a recession. The key question that we are trying to answer is, what is the impact and severity of these changes in our province? The first area we wanted to examine was food prices. What are the short and long-term trends? What's happening in reserve communities? And what is the full effect of these changes? The price of food is vital because low-income families spend a large portion of their money on food compared to high-income families. The short-term trends are clear. Many items like grains, dairy, beef, and eggs have increased at a significant rate beyond that of inflation. Over an even shorter time frame, we've seen the increases accelerating, as many items have gone up at a rate 2 times inflation, from flour to juice to eggs to milk. The long-term trend in food prices is clear. More healthy foods are increasing at a greater rate than inflation and less healthy foods. The price of items like ground beef and chicken and eggs has increased at a much greater rate than items like soda and fries and processed cheese. The price of food in remote First Nations communities in Ontario is absolutely staggering. A loaf of bread for almost $6. Detergent for almost $20. Cranberry juice for over $10. Fresh fruits and vegetables are at prices that are over double a typical grocery store in Toronto. A simple bag of flour is over $10, and orange juice is more than most of us could afford. On average, the price of food in these communities is 86% higher than the Canadian average, which puts the price of groceries out of reach for many families. These trends in rising food prices will have consequences. For new Canadians who purchase more flour and more rice, they will spend more and perhaps get less when they're already challenged with rising poverty rates across the nation. Health issues, which particularly affect low-income populations and cultures such as First Nations households. They will have to substitute and make difficult choices which may compromise their health, and it will certainly have an impact on the grocery bill for low-income families. Over the past 10 years, the annual grocery bill for a single person will have increased by almost $600. This is equal to 15 weeks worth of groceries. Even in the past year, we've also seen an increase, which would be equivalent to 2 weeks worth of food. Beyond the grocery bill, there's the gas bill. Almost half of all low-income Ontarians own an automobile. Unfortunately, since 2003, the average price of gasoline has increased by 62%. This is equal to $800 in annual expenditures, or 1 month's rent in Thunder Bay, Ottawa, or Toronto. Families have also struggled to keep their homes warm, as the price of fuel oil has increased by 89% between 2003 and 2008. And this July 1st, we expect a 20% increase in natural gas prices. As food banks were forged and saw their greatest increase in difficult economic times, we are worried about projected economic growth and employment decline. We've also seen an increase recently in the number of sales and service jobs, and a decline in manufacturing employment, those jobs with good wages and good benefits. What's more difficult is that Ontario continues to receive less benefit from the employment insurance program across the country, Only 1 in 4 workers in Ontario will qualify for a program that was meant to protect our workers. We are already seeing job losses in many communities that rely on single employers, or an economic base which is significantly declining in places like Oshawa and Hamilton and Ottawa and Thunder Bay. Together, these trends are having a big impact on many Ontario families, and fixed income households are hit hardest. For seniors, they may have lost up to $250 in the past year. Social assistance recipients and First Nations households have lost similar amounts. The minimum wage increases, as well as increases to overall wages, have protected many, but those gains have been reduced significantly by rising prices. And food banks are on the front line of social and economic trends in Ontario, and already 320,000 Ontarians must turn to food banks each month. 40% of those are children. Food banks are feeling the effects of price increases. 67% are spending more money on food in 2008 compared to 2007, and many have seen some key donations decline as some corporate food donors close their doors. It is also clear that these trends are making it more difficult for Ontarians living at the edge. 89% of food banks report that they have seen an increase in the number of persons requiring support because of the rising price of food, energy, and gas since the beginning of 2008. Looking ahead, we believe we are only at the leading edge of the storm, with rising prices and tough economic times only beginning to have an impact. We will need the support of our federal government. They must improve our employment insurance program. We will also need the support of our provincial government. They have already committed to a poverty reduction strategy, and they must follow through with that. In addition, we will also need the support of our neighbors and the public. Without this combined support, all the social and economic progress we have worked hard over the past decade to achieve will be washed away.